magic is happening. Jeff is over there tearing apart the Audi 5-cylinder head to toe. He's gonna be doing a time-lapse footage for you guys too. Look how happy he's so happy, so happy. Aren't you happy?
Yeah,
we're happy. So yeah, we're gonna be getting a little time-lapse footage for you guys. But welcome back to the channel. I'm George. This is Malaka MotorSports. Stav's at work today. It's also his birthday. Happy birthday, Stav.
We celebrate this weekend.
We're gonna celebrate it this weekend. Stav's what, 18? 19 years old now?
Yeah.
Maybe mentally. But happy 30th birthday, the big 3-0, man. Congratulations, Stav, and wish you the best. Also wanted to introduce, this is Paul. Is our younger brother who lives in Florida, Pablo. He's going to be sticking around with us here in California for a while, so get used to him. He's going to be being on the channel with us, hanging out.
Yeah, racing.
He owns a Mark 6 July Jetta, so I don't know what we're going to be doing with it, but I'm pretty sure now that he's going to be here in the West Coast, we're probably going to be messing around with it and maybe breaking stuff and trying to go faster in his car too, so keep an eye out for that as well. But we're over here to get some updates in Vegas at Rs Motorsport, to get some updates. Number one, on obviously my car. I've had it here for a few weeks. They're doing an engine build. We decided to do a bottom end, and then I also kind of posted and alluded to doing a upgraded turbo, sticking still with the 850 kit, but they're doing, Zona released a brand new cartridge called the UHF. It's going to be the ultra high flow. There's a lot of details to it. We're going to get that later on in the video, but we're going to be upgrading to that as well. And also Hank kind of bent my arm over and said, hey, you need to be competitive and to really have the edge on a built motor, do a built head so you can really spool the 850 kit, kind of like a hybrid turbocharger. So we've also decided to go with a built head, which we're going to get into later on in this video as well, guys. So to kick this video off as an update to the Rs3 saga, welcome back, and I hope you guys enjoy both the time-lapse footage you're going to be seeing in here of an engine breakdown from head to toe. We're going to go over with Hank and Jeff over a motor, what they look for, things that they do find, and various other aspects of what it takes to actually build a 800 horsepower plus 5-cylinder Rs3 Ttrs engine, guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. You guys are in for a treat. You guys are going to see a lot of engine, 5-cylinder porn, a lot of turbo porn, and we hope you guys enjoy it. And if you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe, because things are about to get a little crazy here in 5-cylinder heaven. I hope you guys enjoy. See you guys in a little bit. Over.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You ever done this before, Hank?
Nope, never.
Pull your upper pan next. You just need to pry it off there. It's all loose.
Does it look like I know what I'm doing?
You got an Ira shirt on and a hat, so.
That doesn't even work here.
Yeah, I don't even know who this guy is. Did you guys find this guy in the street? What's going on? Look at all those pretty colors.
Yeah. The new cranks are nitrited, so they get a pretty cool little amount of color on them.
Yeah, well, the 5-cylinder crank definitely looks better. Look at all those cool colors too. That adds like what, 15 horsepower per side? And you hear that? That's not aircraft. That's just some TTRSs that are just being test run right now. Some hybrid turbos. Charged. So you guys can see that the chains look very different from the VR chains that we're used to see on the 2.8s and 3.2s that we have. Almost looks reinforced. You can kind of see the teeth on the inside too. It's actually a really unique chain to the 5-cylinder Dowser motor. And again, the crank is just absolutely stunning. Obviously the engines are really brand new, but Hank, what'd you say the cranks were treated with?
They're nitrated.
Nitrated, and what's the benefit of that?
Just hard surfaces.
Sweet.
A little more durable crank. It's a nice crank. It's crazy what they're doing, because I mean, like this thing's so light. I mean, the old crank was kind of fragile in the old engines, and you know, they took another like 4.5 pounds out of this crank by drilling all the, you can see like on all the rod throws, it's all hollow. And then the physical crank's hollow as well down the main line.
So it makes it a little bit lighter too?
Yeah, it does. It's shocking that they're not breaking, because the old cranks would break like crazy. They'd break right here, right on this bottom throw where the chain is. So yeah, no issues so far.
Nice. Can't put in the work.
It's like this every day. You're just having to do it all.
Yeah, right. It's like the first time this guy's ever touched an 07K.
So Jeff, what I heard was that you had to ring the daddy bell that these bolts were a little too tight. That's what he was saying.
Oh yeah.
Hank had to come over here and flex his muscles.
Pretty much. Nothing gets done around here unless I do it myself.
All right, guys, so as promised, we're inside Rs Motorsports' clean engine build-up room. We're here with Hank Rs, and we're here to discuss about quite a few things. So get ready, sit down, grab some popcorn. If you guys are into 5 cylinders, you're going to probably want to hear what this man has to say. And Hank, why don't you give him a little heads up on what we're going to be talking about and why?
Yeah, right on. So I think we did this about almost exactly a year ago. We talked about when we went big turbo with you. So yeah, lots happened in the last year. We've gone a lot faster. We've had a lot of customers go a lot faster, and it seems like 12 months ago's news is pretty old. So.
And how fast are you going now in your current RS3?
So 885 is the fastest we've gone on that blue RS3.
You said 8 seconds.
Yeah. So.
In a 4-door sedan with air conditioning.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. I think it'll go a lot faster soon too. I think we'll get 850s out of this year. That's awesome. So yeah, lots happened, but we've been charging hard and developing new products, and you know, making it a way to keep ahead of everybody else. So we'll explain some of that stuff today.
And that's one of the reasons why we're here. Aside from my engine build and other details that we want to get, we're also going to be updating and upgrading to a new version of my current turbocharger that we featured here over a year ago on this channel. And Hank, if you want to take it away and kind of let us know what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so in the last year, Zonda Rotor and Tile, they introduced a new turbocharger called the UHF. It's a new turbine. I think it's really, really exciting. I'm surprised nobody has thought of this or has used this application yet. But yeah, I want to come in a little closer, and I'll kind of show you what's going on. So, you know, this turbo over here is the old turbo that was in Malaka's car. It is a you know, full 10-blade turbine, and very traditional design where the gas comes in right here, hits the tips, spins the turbo, and then has to come out out here. So this is a very tried and true setup, very good setup. But what Zonda Rotor has done is they have come up with the new UHF, ultra high flow, and something you probably have never seen before. This has 5 full blades, and then it has 5 smaller blades. And the concept is that in our industry, people are just trying to get more air through the choke of the turbine. So they're trying to get more in through here. And the trend in the turbo industry is to, you know, lessen the amount of blades. You'll see a lot of 8 blades or 9 blade turbines. What Zonda Rotor's done is they have kept it a 10 blade. They've just taken out this material on every other blades. What that does is it gives you still a tremendous amount of leverage by having 10 blades right off of the manifold, but as it starts going through the turbine, you loosen up the cross section of it to where more air can exit out of the turbocharger. So it means that you get similar spool, but the back pressure goes through the ground, you're able to flow a lot more air through the turbine side of it, which ends up making more power. You can see it. So this is George's actual turbo that he plans on using, and you can just see it how much more flowy the actual turbo is compared to the old generations. Much better unit. I think this is really the class leading turbo in each of its respected sizes. So Zona Rotor has come out with 3 turbine groups to start off with. So here you have the 69S, big boy, that's 1,000 wheel horsepower supported turbine. The 64S, which is what George is going to get, and then you have this cute little 51S, and so it looks teeny compared to the other ones, but this is still a turbine that will support 500 wheel horsepower without issues at all. So yeah, that's kind of the new turbo tech from Zona Rotor.
On that one, Hank, so everyone's pretty much aware, we ran 9.5 in the quarter, beating the hell out of our car for over a year and a half on the old style 850 from Zona Rotor supported by IMS. Never really had any complaints. It was a really, really big turbocharger. The only thing that really cried were my clutches.
Yeah.
Because all the power that we were making, and the car was so early in development. You know, at that time we didn't have trans software. Aftermarket clutches were still unavailable. A lot of that stuff was really undiscovered. So the big turbo was kind of like the limitation at the time, because the power was able to be made, but we weren't able to kind of put it to the ground or translate it to the transmission. And now that's kind of been developed and simplified, and now these guys are able to get the power to the ground, and we were able to make, go 9.5 in the quarter, hit a 150 trap at one point, which was pretty cool, and then we still hold the half mile with the 850 on a stock block, which is pretty cool. 178, and we did that at Shift Sector last year. Exciting stuff. I mean, the car was an absolute rocket. So I won't lie, I'm excited to see what the new 850 UHF from Zona is going to do in the car, see how much more efficient it's going to be. So, I mean, look out. We're going to be doing half mile, we're going to be doing quarter mile again, and maybe some Mexico-style driving to kind of go see what's going around in California, to see what's going on and see how the car reacts on the street. But aside from turbos, though, there is an update now in technology with manifolds and wastegates. Maybe we can get into that and give everyone a heads up what that translates now with your tubular manifolds. What are the options? And all these turbos are here. Can I run all these turbos on these manifolds?
Yeah, absolutely. So late last year, we made an executive decision to move most of our kits over to external gates. And the reason isn't because the internal gates weren't working well. Most of the reason we decided to do it is just so we could have better upgrade path, and for guys that wanted bigger turbos or guys that wanted smaller turbos, we wanted to be able to run every single turbo that Zona Rotor has to offer on one single manifold. And some of the larger Zona Rotor stuff we can't get in an internal wastegate, and so we decided to add an external feature to the turbo manifolds. So that's what you see here with an EGT probe on top, and that is superseding the old internal wastegate manifolds. What's really cool about what we've done here is that a guy can really run this manifold with, say, an 850 kit or a 780 kit on a stock motor, or maybe just doesn't have a bunch of budget to be able to build the motor right away, or wants to wait for the technologies to advance a little further. A guy can run this manifold and a year from now slam a 1,000 kit on it with just the turbo needing to be upgraded, while the manifold and the downpipe stay the same. So for everyone understanding, I originally went internal gated because it was the first available kit from Hank and his team, and we ran the internal gate, had a bunch of fun with it. But now the one cool thing was I was able to bring my manifold back. They modified it, added an external gate, which they now offer as a 2 separate option. But so Hank, from what I'm getting, just to be clear, we're able to upgrade turbo. So if I'm running the 850 now, I could also run the 1,000 kit on the same manifold, so we just have to swap out turbos? Correct, yep. So if next summer you decided you wanted to go to the 1,000 kit or 1,100 kit, that's all that has to happen is strictly buy the new turbocharger, stick it on the manifold, all the rest of the components of the kits stay the same.
Okay, so the kit has a lot of room to grow. So if I was someone who wanted to run even a hybrid turbocharger that's also V-banded, I could move up to the 850 or move up to the 1,000 kit if my motor was ready.
Correct, yep. And we have guys that even order this turbo kit as the 780, which you say, well, that doesn't seem like a smart move to do a full frame 780 when there's a hybrid 780 that's gone really, really fast.
Yeah.
And really the only reason you would do that is just for the upgrade path. If you knew that you were going to end up at 1,000 horsepower at some point, but for now, you wanted just to be at 780 or 850,
yeah,
you'd buy the 850 kit now, you'd run it, and then when you went up to 1,000, you'd put that 850 horsepower turbo, the 8264S, on the used market, get say $1,500 for it, buy a new $2,500 turbo. So the upgrade path would really only be $1,000, and everything else stays the same.
Versus thousands of dollars for buying different manifolds. Now I have one
Correct.
manifold that basically does it all.
Yeah. So this is the same manifold that we're running on that blue car of mine, and you can go forward and backward as far as what kind of horsepower you want with them.
Nice. And this is available now?
It is. Yep. Most, if not all the kits are pretty much all shipping out as externals these days. So we use the Tile and VR 44 gate. It's the standard of the industry.
It's a big boy.
Those go on all the kits. Very robust unit, very good solid boost control. It adds a little bit of cost to the kit, but we're finding that people don't care. The slight price increase is being offset by the ability to go up or down in size of turbo moving forward.
Plus, you go with an external gate too. I mean, these are the same ones we run on the VRTs, on the B5s. We run twin 38s, and I like the tile unit. I like the ability to have an external gate. But what's really cool, again, I want to stress that I had an internally gated manifold, and I was able to bring that back, and they modified it. So if you're like me and one of the original customers from last year to go big turbo, then we could bring our manifolds back, have them modify it, mock it up, and update us rather than buying an external manifold that's completely separate and having to get rid of our, let's say, Gen 1 manifold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing that upgrade for people that have already purchased, so you don't need to cry over that spilt milk very long. It's not bad. We can usually turn them around in about a week and a half. Not a tremendous amount of cost. We will need people to send back both the downpipe and the manifold.
So you can mock everything up.
Yeah, and then we tie the wastegate back into the downpipe.
Nice.
So I'm sure somebody will ask on your channel if you can do a screamer pipe, and the answer is yes.
So you can, if you wanted open dumps on an RS3 or TTRS, you're saying it's possible?
It's possible. Yeah, it's a little bit of work. It's more work than tying it in, but it's pretty tight down there.
Okay, and that's available now too. Now we're going to talk about what this manifold boats up to. And how it flows.
Yeah. So we're pretty excited about a couple of different cylinder heads. I guess in the let's talk about this cylinder head first. These are the cylinder heads we've probably put in 20 or so RS3s already. This is the cylinder head from Race Developments. It is a very good head. We've had really good luck with these things. He does some really neat stuff with the cylinder head to help them not only flow a bunch of air, but also to spool. If you look in, I don't know if there's going to be light in here for you, George, but
did you want to give away those winning recipes right now, or?
Yeah. So
go over it?
So one of the things that he does is he fills in the ports to reshape them to where the air can bend into the combustion chamber. What it does is it really makes, and then you'll see just here on the bottom of the floor, it makes it to where the air bends in there.
So it directs the air channel a little bit better.
Yeah, these heads spool really well. You pick up spool with this, which is kind of unheard of with a ported cylinder head. You'll see 300 or 400 RPMs worth of spool difference with the RD cylinder head.
And what's the point? So we were initially thinking of just going with a built bottom end, but I know we kind of spoke about doing a built head and the benefits of it. Maybe you can explain to some of the guys that are watching, what would be the benefits to going with a built head, especially with a large turbocharger like the 850 or the i1000?
Yeah, so I mean, when you have a ported cylinder head, the concept is you're just trying to increase the CFM for whatever lift the valve's at. And boost pressure inside of when you look at your boost, you're like, oh, I'm running 40 pounds of boost. That's really the inability of the engine to put that air into the combustion chamber. It's a restriction. So if you can figure out a way to get your valves to flow more air coming past the valves, you can lower the boost that's required to make that horsepower. And the way that turbochargers work is that they work at pressure ratios. They don't make boost like the internet thinks. They make pressure ratios. So if you can lower that pressure ratio, most turbos will flow more air. So not only will you get better spools on the RD head, but you'll also get the ability to flow more air throughout the entire lift of the cam, and then as it starts to fall back into the seat as well, you'll get more air across the valve, which will translate into lower boost pressures while still making the air. It was really important early on with especially with the Daza market, because we had that map sensor limit, and we were always so scared to go over 3140 millibar.
Yeah. And
the cylinder heads were awesome because we would make a ton more power, but still only have 3140 millibar worth of map sensor. These days with Cyvex, and we're able to run 5-bar map sensors, so it's not as big of a deal. But you'll still make a ton more power if you can get the boost pressure to be lower. And some camshafts would help as well, and they're coming. This is our new cylinder head that we've been working on for quite a while. It's just a full CNC cylinder head. It's really, really, really nice. It's not filled in combustion chambers. It's not filled in intake runners like the RD head is. It's more of a race spec flow head. I think these will be heads that will support 1200 horsepower without any issues. But yeah, very beautiful.
Do you think someone will be able to daily a head like this in terms of their build?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that these may not spool quite as nice as the RD heads, but they do flow more air on a bench. So I believe that this will be a viable option for a lot of people, and just another option that we have to help people meet their goals.
And correct me if I'm wrong. So essentially what you're saying now with the head work and all the benefits is essentially being able to spool a big turbo like a smaller turbo, reducing your amount of lag throughout the power band.
Yeah, I mean, that's what most people want, is they just want a really wide power band. So if we can reshape the air to where it has better velocity through the port, then we can have less lag, and while still being able to flow more into the combustion chamber, which will ultimately end up making more power. So what does that mean in layman's terms?
Yeah,
when we have
for guys like us.
when we have like a stock cylinder head, we'll see, say like on a textbook 850 kit like yours, full boost will be around 4,200 RPM on a stock cylinder head. To max the turbo out, I think we've run a couple of times with yours in kill mode. I think
poor car.
I think they're like 37, 38 pounds of boost up top is what those will take.
Wow. And we got scared hitting 33 on a kill, and I came back. This guy yelled at me in shift sector. He's like, "Hey man, did you just run 178? Yeah. What'd you set it up to?" I said, "It hit 33." He's like, "Are you kidding me?" This guy was chewing me out on the side of the track.
So yeah, these a stock head would be like 36, 37 max. When you put a ported head, they drop that down. The most you can make is like 33, 34, which is great because it means that you're making more power. You're getting more air into the cylinder. There's less restriction because the valves are flowing more air. So what does that translate into? Usually about 30 or 40 wheel horsepower more.
Nice. And these are both options that are available now?
Correct. Yeah, we're still testing on this one right now. My guess is by the time probably pretty close to when this episode airs, we'll have some more test data on them, and we'll share it.
And I want to stress, so a year and a half ago, we were here talking in another section of the shop, I think even before you expanded here, 7, 8, 900 wheel, and if you caught what he said about 2 minutes ago, he's like, I think we can make about 11 or 1200 horsepower. The growth or the development and advancement in just a year and a half on this platform now, or you being confident how to make the power on this platform, that's 1200 horsepower in a 4-door sedan that came with what, 400 wheel, 350 wheel? That's is that exotic? Is that hypercar territory? I don't know what that is. We're killing exotics now that are supercharged, some of them twin turbocharged now, and just bolt on bare block RS3s. What kind of cars are we going to be chasing now? I mean, obviously you're shooting for mid-8s, but the average consumer on the street, I mean, what kind of terror can they unleash driving these cars?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, of just, as the platform gets more and more advanced. This time last year we were shooting for 9s.
Yeah.
And
just to get into the 9s.
Yeah, just to get into the 9s, and And at that time, like 640, 650 horsepower was pretty much a thing. We could do that on client cars, put them out the door, and we'd never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And you know, we've made 1,000 wheel horsepower with the 5-cylinder at this point, but it's still not. 1,000 wheel horsepower still is a little bit of care. You know, now instead of being 650 wheel horsepower, we can shove out the door and never see again. Now it's like, you know, 780, 800 wheel horsepower, we can shove out the door and never hear from them again. The 1,000 wheel horsepower, it still takes a bunch of care to keep 1,000 wheel horsepower together, and you break parts. That's just that's the thing. So all the viewers out there, we're making it, but we're still developing parts. Half shafts are now sorted, but you know, the prop shaft is the next weak link that we're chewing through those. We're making upgrade parts, but you know, things like this just make it to where we can have packages that we can stand behind and people can go fast, and not have their car in the shop every weekend.
Yeah, no, totally understandable. And
I think that's the thing that people, I need to do a better job of educating people.
Sure.
Just, you know, you see our Instagram or you see our videos and it's, you know, they're making 1,000 horsepower, I can daily drive that. It's still 450 horsepower per liter. It's a lot of stress on an engine.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you have to be very careful with conditions and everything to be able to keep a motor like that together.
Well, I mean, you saw us too. I mean, we were very open with a lot of the issues that we saw in me were, these are, now you're putting pressure on parts that weren't meant to handle certain powers, and we blew, you saw what happened with the seals when we were here. You know, $5 worth in seals now tore up stock clutches that would cost anyone thousands of dollars. This is what happens when you go drag racing and beat a car and all that other jazz. So, I mean, please understand too, when we're posting our videos, we're going out there racing, you know, we're doing our thing, we're having fun, but going drag racing every weekend or every other weekend and going to the half mile, it puts a lot of toll on the vehicle. You know, half mile passes. I remember when I first started racing in half mile, Hank says, hey, there's a lot more stress on the motor in the half mile than there is in the quarter mile. And I just couldn't understand why. I was like, I'm not really launching, I'm really rolling into it. And just the dynamics of what's going on inside the engine, how much pressure is being put on it, what kind of mile an hour we're doing, and then of course stopping. I mean, I was going through pads every 3 months. Yeah. Going to Shift Sector, going to Omega, doing all their half mile events and stuff. So, you know, there is a price, there is a cost for going fast, guys, you know. Some guys are out there with stock turbo cars and they're pushing them to the limits, you know. You really got to understand what you're getting into and what you're getting involved with. But if you're set up right and you got the right parts and if you're really willing to be reasonable with the power that you want, as we said before, I want to go for more power, and I'm understanding we're going to have axles issues and shaft issues, but there's other people that want to drive their car every day, so you may want to stick around with a mid-rate power band, but you got to understand, there's 500 horsepower R3s kicking some exotic V10 butt at the 500-600 horsepower range, so you don't need to make 500-600 wheel, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hank, translates to what in exotic world now, what they're making? Yeah,
I mean, it's, you know, especially normally some of the, you know, like a Huracan or something like that, you don't need a bunch of power to be able to jump away from those things. But I think what's fun now is that we're getting to the point where you know, we can hang with some of the new McLaren 720Ss. Those things are way fast.
We had some fun with some McLarens on the whole we did.
Yeah, it's just an incredible. There's just not a better platform out there for, you know, even if you're saying a $70,000 car with another $30,000 on top. That's $100,000. It's a pretty dang good bargain right now for performance.
Versus exotic out there and then having to build that. I mean, there's guys that are spending $200,000-300,000 on top of their exotic in order to have the performance that this car is putting out. Yeah. And you have the convenience of a 4-door sedan.
Yeah. I mean, I guarantee you'll have a comment that's like, "Oh, Fox Body Mustang." Like, yeah, it's true. They're really fast.
Well, yeah, we get comments on our channel all the time too. Hey, man, I can build my Civic for like $900 and beat you. Yeah, like there's some 7-second Civics out there, man. But it'd be hard pressed to try to put the AC on that and put my cup holder, go through the drive-through, and then go racing the next weekend.
Yeah. It was fun out at Waterfest. Just we ran Outlaw. We were the third qualifier. We really were in it to win money there at the end. We were one race away from winning it all, but. We were the only Outlaw with AC. We were the only Outlaw with door cards.
With a real street car.
It was a street car, yeah. The car's shipping back right now, but it's still a car that I could throw my kids in and go fishing or something like that with.
So what we're going to be chatting about now is Hank's got this beautiful sleeve block. It looks It looks beefy. I'll just say that. It looks beefy. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, you bet. So we've been sleeving blocks for a better part of a year now. This is probably around our 15th or 20th one we've done. Super robust setup now. We're really happy with the way they've turned out. But yeah, we stick sleeves in them, and how to get them to stay in and not sink and to stay true has been a lot of work. But the final product is this, the setup that can really hold a bunch of power and help us go fast.
You're running the sleeve block in your car?
Yeah. So my car's had a sleeve block in it this whole time. Never had to touch the sleeves. They've been super robust. So let's talk about a little bit why we use sleeves over the conventional ones. So one thing that you'll see is that even if the cylinders aren't hurt on the stock sleeves, on the stock bores, when you start putting ARP studs in them or putting something that can hold 45-50 psi worth of cylinder pressure, of boost pressure, which makes much more cylinder pressure, you start lifting the heads. So we need to put a really strong stud in these at the boost pressures that we're running. And the problem with that is you put a big stud in there and it starts to twist the blocks. They pull the block a little bit differently than the OEM head bolt. So on the stock boards, you'll find that the cylinders aren't round. You'll put a gauge on it and you'll go up the bore and you'll see it. They'll taper and then they just won't be round.
Really?
Yeah. So we're sleeving most of the 1,000 horsepower cars out there, not because the OEM bores hurt, but because we want a perfectly round cylinder. And also, when we do sleeves, we have the ability to really fine-tune piston-to-wall clearances so that expansion is proper when the motor gets hot.
Do you think that maybe it's cost-effective while you're already pulling the motor for a customer to do a sleeve if they just want it to be done and then maybe progress as they kind of go along with it?
Yeah, it just depends a lot on the motor. We get some blocks will pull more than others. Usually when we get a block in for 1,000, we've done 1,000 horsepower kits on stock sleeves, top of my head. That all motor 2000, that guy's on a stock block, and
yeah.
Some of them are straight. You put a gauge on them with some big studs and a torque plate, and the cylinder's not only round but very little taper. And
so you're hinting to now maybe a potential quality issue now with like a huge consistency from Audi.
Yeah, there's some 1,000 cars that we've got in here, and we look at them and say, no way, that the bores are perfect. There's no damage to the bore. Just put some drop-ins in the bores and go.
Yeah.
And then there's other motors we get in here that they're just not round, and they probably would work. You'd see some oil consumption. You'd see more blow-by, more strain on the breather system. So it's really a case-by-case of decision of whether or not to sleeve them or not. But we do have the technology. And then, of course, if you have any damage, we have the ability to save most blocks.
Got it. Now, so just so everyone's aware, because I want to proactively progress with the car, and maybe if I can't work my way up to 1,000 kit, I really like the power band on the 850. With my motor build, I chose to go with the sleeve bottom end, only because I want to eventually start making some serious power as the car gets a little bit faster, and maybe as I start to lose my mind a little bit, wanted to maybe be like Hank with an 8-second RS3. So someone like me, it would make sense, to partner up a lot of these parts, and especially with a sleeve block. Because if I'm going to spend the money now on a turbo kit and maybe even an engine build, and I know I'm going to keep the car for a while, which I don't have any plans on getting rid of the Rs3 anytime soon. I chose to sleeve the block. It was just kind of like a peace of mind thing for myself, because I want to start making serious power towards the end. And seeing where the 850 kit can take me, and then maybe next year we can talk 1,000 kit.
Yeah. The big one that I like with sleeving them is we have the ability to control the piston to wall clearance.
Okay.
I mean, true, we could make a custom piston to have a bigger piston to wall on some of the drop-ins, but the stock motor is very, very tight for piston to wall clearance, their ring gaps, all that. And so when we do sleeving, we're able to get a perfectly straight bore, and we're able to play with piston to wall clearances and also ring gaps for different applications. Or if if a guy wanted to run nitrous, you'd set it up a lot different than if a guy that wants to run, you know, a hybrid turbo, for instance. So,
Got it.
The sleeves just offer a lot of flexibility. One of the added bonuses that really shouldn't be considered too much is that if something were to happen, we also could bore them out. So they could go up to 83 and a
Really?
half.
On the sleeves?
On the sleeves, yeah.
That's pretty badass
So
too.
where the stock bore, if you heard it at 82 and a half, that's you can't overbore it without replate or without doing the replasma process, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody.
But if someone wanted to, let's say if they did have an issue with the piston inside that, you just have to change out a sleeve at that point instead of machining out the block or doing anything crazy.
Yeah, I mean, technically, if you were to just melt the piston, the likelihood is that you could just go 0.5 millimeter over, not even take the sleeve out, just rebore to 83 and go off to the races again.
Nice.
Especially this motor where the piston doesn't really come out of the hole. You know, you don't really need to worry about like oversized gaskets or anything like that. It'd be real easy.
Okay, so we talked about power adders, manifolds, wastegates, turbos, and now the engine. But there's one thing on the engine we haven't spoke about and how much power it adds. Can I get the camera real quick? Give me that.
Oh, the logo?
Yeah, how much power? I mean, so this is probably a question that someone's going to ask. This is adding what, 500-600 wheel now that you can run?
At least.
So, I mean, one of the many benefits, and of course I'm doing this in jest, one of the cool things is that they do laser etch their logo on both their engine blocks. And if you guys see, earlier we were looking at the heads, I think it was on the opposite side, there we are. And you'll see the Iris logo there as a tribute to knowing that you have a customized Rs block. And I think that about wraps it up in terms of an engine breakdown again for all the up-to-date 2019 Rs3 Ttrs Go Fast parts. All right, guys, this concludes part 1 of our 2-part video saga with Rs Motorsport in terms of updating when it comes to 5-cylinder engine breakdown, and then a discussion on the new upgrades. Part 2, which is coming up next, is going to be a discussion and an example for Cyvex standalone system for the newer Rs3 and Ttrs's. We're going to show you guys a time lapse of install, show you guys how easy it is, and then we're going to have Nick and Hank discuss some of the reasons why a lot of these customers are going to Cyvex, especially for the higher end, big turbo, fully built setups now on the Rs3 and Ttrs's, and what the advantages are and pros, maybe even some cons. We'll get them to chat about that on part 2. So guys, again, this is the end of part 1. We appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you guys liked it, and if you did, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. We appreciate you watching. We'll catch you on the next one.